The rain hadn't even started when Harper Lane felt something in her chest collapse, quietly, like a glass cracking from the inside. Manhattan shimmered below the penthouse windows, its skyline glowing in the late evening haze, but the beauty of the city only made the moment feel more cruel. Grant had forgotten to silence his phone again. One careless notification, one preview line, one name she had never seen before. Tessa Monroe. At first, Harper thought it was a work message. Grant lived half his life inside that phone, but the words beneath the name were enough to freeze her in place. I miss you already. Same room tomorrow? Her fingers went cold around the iPhone. The apartment, usually echoing with Grant's deep, charismatic voice, felt painfully silent. The marble countertop, the framed photos, even the faint scent of his cologne felt like props in a play she suddenly realized she'd never been the star of. She told herself she needed air, a moment, a breath, but the universe wasn't giving her any mercy tonight. Her heart thudded in her ears as she walked down the hallway. The door to Grant's office, usually locked, was slightly open, and the sound she heard wasn't business. It wasn't negotiations. It wasn't stress. It was laughter. A woman's laugh, light, confident, far too comfortable. Harper pushed the door wider. Just enough to see Grant's hands on Tessa's waist. Just enough to see Tessa's lips on his neck. Just enough to hear Grant whisper, with a softness he hadn't used with Harper in years. Don't worry, she'll never leave. She has no one. Those words didn't stab her. They hollowed her out. Grant didn't even flinch when he finally noticed Harper. Instead, he straightened his tie and sighed like she had interrupted a meeting. Harper, this isn't what it looks like, he said, tone clipped, rehearsed. But she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She simply turned away. No coat, no suitcase, no explanation. She walked out of the penthouse, down the elevator, and into the cold Manhattan night. Fifth Avenue lights blurred through her tears, taxis splashing water against the curb as she stood with nothing but her phone and the clothes on her back. Grant didn't follow her. He didn't call. Not yet. But the city felt too big, too bright, too indifferent. She wandered without direction, her body trembling as the rain finally broke open above her. She sat alone under a scaffolding awning, pulling her knees close, breath fogging in the air. And then her phone buzzed, not from Grant, not from anyone she knew. A message from an unknown number. Harper Lane, stay where you are. Your jet is on its way. Her heart stopped. Whose jet? And how did they know her name? Harper stared at the message glowing on her cracked iPhone screen, rain dripping from her lashes. Your jet is on its way. The words felt impossible, like a line stolen from a stranger's dream, not the life of a woman who had just walked out of her marriage with nothing but a trembling heartbeat. A gust of cold wind rushed through Fifth Avenue, whipping her damp hair across her cheeks. Her teeth chattered. She pulled her coat tighter, except she had no coat. Grant had taken it last winter, insisting the color washed her out, and she didn't need expensive things. She didn't even have enough warmth to argue back then. She had nowhere to go now. The city around her pulsed, taxis honking, late-night shoppers carrying glossy Fifth Avenue bags, doormen whistling for cars. Everyone seemed to have a destination, everyone but her. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown, 5 minutes, black SUV, stay visible. She swallowed hard. A scam, a setup, or something far more dangerous. Hope. Grant's voice echoed in her mind. She has no one. She once believed that wasn't true. She once believed he was her someone. The man who had promised to protect her had instead used her insecurities as leverage to break her. For 3 years, his manipulation grew like mold. Quiet, invasive, destructive. He controlled her finances. He corrected her wardrobe. He deleted job offers she never even got the chance to see. And tonight, he'd replaced her with someone shinier and more convenient. Lightning flashed across the Manhattan sky. Her breath stung. She wrapped her arms around herself, not for warmth, but to keep from unraveling. A black Mercedes Maybach turned the corner, slowing as it approached her. The rear door opened before she could react. A man stepped out, dressed in a sleek black suit, face unreadable beneath the street lamp glow. "Ms. Lane?" he asked. Harper hesitated, rain drumming against pavement like a warning. "Yes," she whispered. He nodded respectfully. "Mr. Sterling sent us. We need to get you to the airport." Her stomach dropped. Rowan Sterling. She knew the name. Everyone in New York did. A billionaire who rarely appeared in public. The kind of man who didn't involve himself in strangers' tragedies. Why her? Why now? She took a shaky step forward. "Please," the man added softly, as if sensing the fracture inside her. "You're safe with us." Safe. A word she hadn't felt in years. She exhaled, closed her eyes for half a second, then stepped into the SUV. She didn't know it yet, but this single decision would burn her old life to ashes and build a new one from the smoke. The SUV door shut with a soft, final thud, one that felt strangely symbolic, like the closing of a chapter Harper hadn't realized she was ready to end. The warmth inside the Maybach wrapped around her, a stark contrast to the cold Manhattan rain still clinging to her clothes. Soft, ambient lighting glowed along the interior panels, reflecting in her damp hair as she tried to steady her breathing. Across from her sat the same driver, calm, composed, almost too gentle for someone delivering a message from a billionaire. "Seatbelt, Ms. Lane," he reminded softly. She clicked it into place, her fingers trembling. For several moments, neither of them spoke. The city flashed by in streaks of gold and blue as they navigated through Midtown. Harper watched skyscrapers blur into abstract shapes, each one a reminder of how small she felt tonight. Finally, she found her voice. Why would Rowan Sterling send a car for me?" she asked. The driver considered his words. "Mr. Sterling has his reasons." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I'm allowed to give." Her stomach twisted. Nothing about this night made sense. Harper wasn't wealthy. She wasn't connected. She wasn't the type of woman billionaires sent private jets for. She was just a wife who'd been tossed aside like a broken ornament. She looked out the window again. Every block they passed pulled her farther away from the life she'd built with Grant. A life built on shifting sand, and she had never noticed. "You're safe," the driver repeated, almost as if sensing her rising panic. She nodded but didn't speak. As they crossed the Queensboro Bridge, the city opened beneath them, Manhattan's glittering skyline stretching like a jeweled crown behind the rainfall-smeared glass. Harper's chest tightened. Somewhere up there, Grant was probably pouring champagne for Tessa, celebrating his freedom, confident she would never survive without him. She'll never leave. She has no one. The words thundered again in her head. But if that were true, whose jet was waiting for her at Teterboro? The SUV slowed as the airport gates appeared ahead, security waving them through with immediate clearance. Too immediate. Whoever arranged this expected her. The driver finally spoke again. "Mr. Sterling doesn't intervene in many lives," he said quietly. "But when he does, it's never by accident." Her pulse stumbled. "Why me?" she whispered. The driver looked at her through the rear-view mirror, eyes steady. "Because, Ms. Lane, you're about to matter more than you ever imagined." The SUV rolled toward the glowing runway, and the jet waiting with its door open. The moment Harper stepped onto the runway, the cold night air swept through her thin blouse, sending a shiver down her spine. The rain had softened into a mist, floating like silver smoke under the bright floodlights. The Gulfstream G700 loomed ahead, sleek, impossibly polished, its engines humming with a quiet authority that made her heartbeat trip. A flight attendant in a tailored Navy uniform greeted her with a warm professional smile. "Welcome, Ms. Lane. He's waiting for you." He. Her throat tightened. She didn't know who he was. Not really. The only hint she had was the name whispered by the driver. Rowan Sterling. A man she'd only seen on business magazines and waiting rooms. A man who didn't exist in the same universe as someone like her. Inside, the jet glowed with soft amber lights, casting a warm halo over cream leather seats. Harper hovered uncertainly near the entrance, droplets of rain falling from her hair onto the marble aisle. Then a deep voice floated from the forward cabin. "You're safe now, Harper." Her breath caught. Standing near a built-in bar, one hand resting casually on the counter, was Rowan Sterling. He was taller than she expected, commanding without trying. His suit was simple but impossibly refined, dark charcoal that matched the stillness in his gray eyes. There was no trace of pity in his expression, no judgment, just quiet recognition, as if he had known exactly where she'd be tonight. Harper's voice trembled. Why are you doing this? Rowan studied her for a moment, his gaze steady, unhurried. Because you deserve better than what happened to you tonight. Her throat tightened again. You don't even know me. A faint curve touched his lips. Not quite a smile, more like an understanding settling into place. You'd be surprised what I know, he said. Your work, your designs, the way you see space, not just fill it. You submitted a concept for one of our innovation centers 2 years ago. I never forgot it. Harper blinked, stunned. That submission had been rejected, or so she'd believed. Rowan continued, voice calm but firm. Grant Winslow might not understand your worth, but I do. The words hit her harder than she expected, gentle but devastating in their truth. Harper looked away, tears threatening. I don't even know where I'm going. Rowan extended a hand toward the seat across from his. Then let's find out together. For the first time in years, Harper allowed herself to breathe, and she stepped forward. The jet had barely lifted off the runway when Harper's phone, still slick with rain, buzzed violently in her hand. The screen lit up with a name she wished she could erase from her memory. Grant Winslow. Her stomach twisted. For a moment, she just stared at the flashing notification, unable to breathe. Rowan, seated across from her, watched her carefully, not intrusively, but with the composure of a man who sensed the storm still raging inside her. You don't have to answer that, Rowan said gently. But Harper did, not because she owed Grant anything, but because his voice was the one chain still wrapped around her ankle. She needed to hear it snap. She swiped to accept. What the hell do you think you're doing? Grant's voice exploded through the speaker, sharp enough to sting. You walk out and embarrass me in front of half the board, and now my driver says you disappeared off Fifth Avenue. Are you insane? Harper closed her eyes. Grant, I saw you. I saw everything. A beat of silence, then a cold laugh. Don't be dramatic. You walked in at the wrong time, and you're blowing it out of proportion. Come home. We'll talk like adults. Home. The word felt contaminated. Grant, I'm not coming back. Her voice trembled, but she didn't break. You don't have anywhere else to go, he snapped, and you know it. Across the table, Rowan's expression sharpened, just a flicker, but enough to tell Harper he heard the venom in every word. Grant continued, voice dripping with arrogance. Listen, Harper, Tessa is just fun, temporary. You're the stable one. You don't throw away a marriage over a misunderstanding. Her grip tightened around the phone. A misunderstanding? Harper whispered. You told her I'd never leave because I have no one. Grant didn't deny it. Instead, he sighed impatiently. Stop being emotional and come back before you make this worse. Something inside her shifted then, quietly but irrevocably. No, she said. This time I'm choosing myself. Grant's voice rose. Where are you? Harper, don't hang up on me. She ended the call. Her chest shook, not with fear, but with a strange, unfamiliar relief. Rowan leaned back slightly, his gaze steady. That sounded final, he said softly. Harper wiped a tear from her cheek. It was. Outside the jet's window, the night clouds opened, revealing a clean stretch of moonlit sky. Vast, untouched, and terrifyingly free. For the first time in years, Harper wasn't falling apart. She was breaking open. The jet cabin was quiet, so quiet Harper could hear the faint hum of the air filtration system and her own heartbeat pulsing in her ears. The adrenaline that had carried her through Grant's call began to fade, leaving behind a hollow, trembling exhaustion. Her hands, still wrapped around the phone, shook uncontrollably. Rowan didn't move toward her. He didn't crowd her with sympathy or questions. He simply watched with the patience of someone who understood that some storms must run their course. Harper's breath hitched, then another, and another, until her chest tightened, her pulse surged, and the world tilted slightly. Panic. A sensation she knew too well, one Grant used to label as overreacting. She leaned forward, burying her face into her palms. A broken whisper slipped out. "I don't know what I'm doing." Rowan's voice came low, steady. "You're surviving." Her shoulders shook. "Everything I built, my marriage, my career, my stability, he took all of it." "Then he never deserved any of it," Rowan replied. That simple sentence, so calm, so matter-of-fact, cracked something inside her. Tears spilled down her cheeks, silent at first, then unstoppable. Not loud, not dramatic. Just years of suppressed humiliation finally finding a voice. She hated crying in front of anyone, especially a man like Rowan. Powerful, composed, someone who seemed carved from stone and certainty. Yet he didn't look uncomfortable. He didn't look away. He didn't flinch. Instead, he reached to the side, grabbed a soft linen blanket, and set it gently beside her. Not touching her, not forcing it onto her lap, just offering warmth within reach. The gesture undid her. "It wasn't just the affair," Harper whispered. "It was the way he made me small. Like everything I did was almost good, but never good enough." Rowan's expression hardened, not with anger at her, but with a quiet fury directed elsewhere. "People like Grant don't break you overnight," Rowan said. "They chip away at you until you forget who you were in the first place." Harper looked up, eyes red. "And who am I now? A woman on a jet she doesn't deserve, heading to a destination she didn't choose?" Rowan shook his head slowly. "You're someone who finally stepped away from a life built to diminish you. That takes more strength than you think." Her breath trembled, but this time it steadied on the exhale. For the first time since the night began, she felt the faintest flicker of something she thought she'd lost. Possibility. Outside the window, dawn began hinting at the horizon. A new day, and a new version of Harper, was waiting to be born. By the time the jet descended over the quiet California coastline, the sun was brushing the horizon with soft streaks of gold and apricot. Harper leaned toward the window, staring at the unfolding view. Malibu cliffs rising like carved amber, waves crashing against the rocks below. It didn't feel real. None of this felt real. She wasn't a woman meant for private jets, ocean villas, or billionaires who looked at her as if she mattered. She was the woman Grant left in the rain. Rowan stood from his seat just as the landing gear lowered. His movements were unhurried, almost meditative, the opposite of Grant's restless arrogance. "We'll be there in a few minutes," he said. Harper nodded, though her throat tightened again. As breathtaking as Malibu was, she didn't understand any of it. "Rowan," she finally whispered, "why me? Why help me? I'm not someone you even know." He met her gaze, and for the first time she saw something she hadn't expected in his eyes. Recognition. "Harper," he said quietly, "I knew your work before I ever knew your name." She blinked. "My work?" Rowan walked to a small cabinet near the bar and retrieved a thin portfolio. He set it in front of her. Harper's breath caught. These were her designs, concept sketches, 3D models, layouts she had submitted anonymously years ago for a Sterling Innovations competition she assumed she had lost. "You were the top entry," Rowan said, "but you withdrew before we could reach out." Her heart hammered. No, I never withdrew." Rowan exhaled sharply, understanding settling across his features. "Grant," he said, not as a question, just the truth. Harper's stomach twisted. Grant had handled her submission. He told her she hadn't made the shortlist. He told her she wasn't ready for big leagues. He told her she lacked vision. "I tried to track you down," Rowan continued, "but your contact information had been altered. It took me years to find the real you." She shook her head in disbelief. "Why keep looking?" Rowan leaned slightly closer. "Because talent like yours doesn't disappear, and because someone tried very hard to make sure you never saw your own worth." Something inside her, small, fragile, glowed at his words. The jet touched down smoothly. Malibu's morning light spilled through the windows, washing Harper in warmth she hadn't felt in years. "Harper," Rowan said softly, "you weren't saved tonight." He opened the cabin door. "You were reclaimed." The moment Harper stepped off the jet, the Malibu air wrapped around her like something alive, warm, salted, almost soft. The sunrise spilled over the cliffs in shades of rose gold, painting the ocean with shimmering light. She felt as if she had walked into someone else's dream, not her own life. A sleek SUV waited on the tarmac, but Rowan didn't rush her. He let her stand there, barefoot on the warm concrete, her shoes dangling from her fingers, breathing in the first real freedom she'd tasted in years. "You don't have to be strong right now," Rowan said quietly. His voice didn't command. It invited. Harper's chest tightened. She wasn't sure what she felt. Relief? Fear? Grief? Maybe all of them tangled together like sea foam pulling at the shore. The house Rowan brought her to wasn't a mansion meant to intimidate. It was architectural art, a blend of glass and cedar overlooking the ocean, glowing like a lantern perched above the waves. The kind of home she would have designed if someone had ever believed in her enough to let her. "Stay here as long as you need," Rowan said as they stepped into the sunlit entryway. "No expectations, no obligations." That nearly broke her, because for 3 years Grant had weaponized expectations. Expectations of how she dressed, how she spoke, how she played her role. Here the only expectation was that she breathe. Rowan gave her space, disappearing down a hallway, leaving her alone in the living room, just her and the floor-to-ceiling windows capturing an endless ocean. Harper approached them slowly, her reflection faint against the glass just as the sun broke fully over the horizon. She saw herself clearly for the first time. Hair tangled, eyes swollen from crying, blouse still damp from Manhattan's rain. She looked like a woman who had lost everything, and at the same time, a woman standing at the threshold of something extraordinary. A soft knock sounded behind her. A house manager, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, offered Harper a folded set of clothes and a towel. "Mr. Sterling asked me to prepare a room for you," she said. "He also left this." She handed Harper a slim leather notebook. Harper opened it. Inside were her designs, printed, annotated, and highlighted, with Rowan's handwriting in the margins. "This is brilliance. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." Her breath hitched. This wasn't rescue. This was recognition. The beginning of a life stolen from her long ago, now placed gently back in her hands. Harper sat on the terrace overlooking the Pacific, wrapped in a soft cotton robe the house manager had left for her. The ocean roared below, powerful and steady. Everything she wasn't. Not yet. She held the leather notebook in her lap, tracing the handwritten notes Rowan had left in the margins of her sketches. Every comment was precise, insightful, respectful. No condescension, no dismissive corrections, no almost good. It felt foreign. It felt like oxygen. She flipped to a page that featured one of her favorite concepts, an urban community center built around natural light. Grant once told her it was cute, but unrealistic. Rowan had written, "You saw what cities forgot. This is vision." Her throat tightened. For the first time since leaving Manhattan, Harper felt something shift inside her. Not relief, not grief, but a slow, fragile rebuilding. Her phone buzzed. Her body tensed instantly, until she saw the sender. "Unknown number. I heard what he did. Are you safe?" Harper stared at the message, confused. Nobody knew where she was. Nobody even knew she'd left Manhattan. Another message came. "I'm sorry I didn't say anything earlier. I thought you knew." A chill moved down Harper's arms. She typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots blinked. Then, "A coworker. Someone who saw too much." Grant wasn't just cheating. Her pulse kicked hard. Harper typed again, fingers trembling. "What do you mean?" Another pause. Then, "He's been positioning Tessa for months, not just personally, professionally. He's been using your work, Harper." The notebook slipped from her hands. "Using her work?" She typed faster. "Explain." "Designs, concept proposals, presentation decks. You submitted them, but he presented them as his own. The board thinks your ideas came from him." Her breath left her in a sharp, painful exhale. The pieces clicked together. Every rejected submission, every opportunity she never heard back from, every file Grant insisted on reviewing before sending. He didn't just diminish her, he erased her. Harper stood abruptly, gripping the terrace railing as the truth washed over her. The affair wasn't the deepest betrayal, it was this. Rowan stepped onto the terrace at that moment, sensing something had changed. Harper? She turned to him, eyes burning, not with tears this time, but with clarity. He didn't just steal my life, she whispered. He stole my work. Rowan's expression darkened like a storm forming over calm water. Then we're going to take everything back. Harper followed Rowan into the villa's study, a room lined with glass walls and overlooking the vast Pacific. Morning light glimmered off the sleek surfaces, polished concrete floors, a minimalist oak desk, and a single MacBook Pro open with documents pulled up. It didn't look like a workspace. It looked like a war room. Rowan stopped beside the desk and turned to her. Before we make a move, you need to understand the full picture, he said, voice steady but edged with steel. Harper nodded, still clutching her phone, the coworker's messages echoing inside her like a bruise being pressed over and over. Rowan tapped the screen. A folder opened. Her designs. All of them. Versions she hadn't seen since the day she submitted them. But next to each file was a name she never expected to see. Grant Winslow. Presenter. Her stomach dropped. Rowan watched the color drain from her face. He pitched them at industry events, claimed credit, used your work to position himself as the future of Winslow Properties. Harper felt a cold, shaking disbelief. He told me none of these were accepted. Rowan's jaw clenched, not with impatience, but anger on her behalf. That's because he rerouted the responses, Rowan said. Every company that tried to contact you got redirected. Some were told you declined. Others were told you weren't interested. All sent to an email address he controlled. Her knees weakened. She gripped the edge of the desk. Rowan stepped closer, not touching her, but anchoring the moment with his presence. Harper, this wasn't incompetence or insecurity. This was calculated. She looked up at him, eyes burning. Why? Why go this far? Because your mind threatened him, Rowan answered without hesitation. Because your brilliance didn't serve his narrative. Because if you rose, he couldn't control you. A long silence followed, broken only by the soft hum of the ocean outside. Harper finally spoke, her voice low but unwavering. What happens now? Rowan turned the laptop toward her, showing a confidential document marked with the Sterling Innovation Seal. Winslow Properties is unstable. They're desperate for investors. We're negotiating a strategic acquisition, and now we have leverage. Harper frowned. Leverage? Rowan's eyes locked onto hers. You, your work, the truth he buried. Harper's pulse quickened, not with fear but with something sharper. Justice. Rowan's voice softened, but the conviction behind it didn't. You're not powerless, Harper. You were never the one who needed saving. Grant was the one afraid of you. Her breath trembled. For the first time, she believed it. The next morning, Harper woke to the sound of gentle waves and sunlight spilling across the room like a warm blanket. For a moment, she forgot where she was, forgot the chaos, forgot Grant, forgot the betrayal. Malibu had a way of making pain feel distant, almost diluted. But the moment she sat up, reality returned. She wasn't here to heal. She was here to rise. After getting dressed in the simple linen outfit left for her, she followed the scent of freshly brewed coffee to the kitchen. Rowan stood near the island, sleeves rolled slightly, reviewing something on his iPad. He looked up when she entered. Good morning, Harper. It struck her again, how different his voice was from Grant's. Grant always sounded like someone performing. Rowan sounded like someone present. Morning, she replied softly. He slid a coffee toward her. No questions about how she liked it, just confidence he already knew. And he did. He had noticed her preference the night before. We have a meeting today, Rowan said, tapping his screen. Something I want you to be part of. Harper's eyebrows lifted. A meeting? With who? Sterling Innovations Senior Development Board. Her breath stalled. Rowan, I'm not ready for something like that. I'm still trying to process everything. You don't need to be ready, Rowan said calmly. You just need to show up. Let me handle the rest. Her pulse quickened. Why me? You could bring anyone. Rowan leaned slightly against the counter, studying her with an intensity that didn't intimidate, just saw through her. Because this acquisition involves urban regeneration. Because your designs change the way my team viewed community spaces. And because I want them to see the mind behind the work Grant stole. She blinked. You want me to present? No, Rowan said with a faint smile. Not yet. Today you watch. You listen. You understand the scale of what you're stepping into. The words landed somewhere deep, warming places inside her she thought had collapsed forever. Harper followed him to the black SUV waiting outside. As the doors closed and the vehicle pulled away from the villa, her phone buzzed again. Another message. Same unknown coworker. He's panicking. Grant knows you're gone. Her breath caught. Another message followed instantly. And he knows someone powerful took you. Harper's chest tightened, not with fear, but with a strange, fierce calm. Let him panic. For once, she wasn't the one losing control. The Sterling Innovations headquarters rose from the Malibu cliffs like a modern fortress, glass, steel, and sharp lines catching the sunlight. As the SUV approached, Harper felt her heartbeat pound in her throat. She'd seen buildings like this in magazines, on documentaries, in dreams she never dared to voice. Never up close, never with her name on the guest list. Rowan stepped out first, the kind of man who belonged in a place like this, commanding without noise. Harper followed, smoothing her linen shirt, feeling painfully aware of how fragile she must look in contrast to everything around her. Inside, the lobby opened into a vast atrium. Sunlight poured through skylights, illuminating greenery that climbed the walls like living art. People in tailored suits moved with purpose, greeting Rowan with nods of respect. Eyes flickered to Harper, curious, assessing, but none dared to ask. Rowan led her into a sleek boardroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. A dozen executives sat around the table, each with tablets, styluses, and an expression that suggested nothing surprised them anymore. Until Rowan spoke. Before we begin, I want to introduce someone important, he said, gesturing toward Harper. This is Harper Lane, an architect with a creative vision integral to our next phase. A ripple of surprise moved around the table. Harper's breath caught. I'd like her to observe today's meeting, Rowan added, tone leaving no room for disagreement. A woman near the end of the table, Lydia Chen, Chief Strategy Officer, smiled politely. Ms. Lane, welcome. I've reviewed some of the internal mock-ups inspired by your concepts. Impressive work. Harper blinked. Internal mock-ups? Her designs had traveled farther than she ever imagined. Rowan tapped the tablet in front of him. A projection filled the screen. A blueprint for an ambitious urban revitalization project linked to the potential acquisition of Winslow Properties. This project, Rowan said calmly, is rooted in ideas Harper developed years ago. Ideas that were never credited to her. Executives straightened. Lydia frowned. That's significant. Harper felt the room tilt, not from fear, but from the revelation that Rowan wasn't just offering her a seat at the table, he was giving her back her voice. As the meeting continued, discussing land evaluations, community impact, strategic advantages, Harper realized something. She understood this language. She understood these plans, and she belonged in this room. Her phone buzzed under the table. Unknown coworker. Grant's trying to track you. He's calling everyone. Harper inhaled sharply. Then another message. He knows you're with Sterling. He's terrified. Harper looked up at Rowan, steady, composed, unwavering. For the first time, she wasn't the one drowning. She was the one rising. The meeting ended with a sense of controlled electricity. Executives buzzing, strategies forming, possibilities unfolding. But Harper didn't leave the boardroom with excitement. She left with a tremor beneath her ribs, the coworker's last message echoing through her mind. Grant knows you're with Sterling. He's terrified. Terrified men were unpredictable. And Grant, when cornered, was dangerous. As she stepped into the hallway, the ocean view stretching endlessly beyond the glass, she inhaled slowly, grounding herself. Rowan walked beside her, reading every flicker of tension in her posture. You're thinking about him, he said. Harper didn't deny it. He's not the type to let go quietly. Rowan nodded once. Then it's a good thing you're not alone. They entered a private lounge overlooking the cliffs, sunlight casting warm amber over the minimalist space. A tray of fresh fruit and tea waited on a low table, prepared without being asked. Sterling's staff anticipated needs with almost unsettling precision. Harper took a seat, hands tightening around the warm mug. "What if he twists the story?" she whispered. "What if he claims I stole his work? He has influence, resources, a family name that carries weight." Rowan sat across from her, elbows resting lightly on his knees. "And I have documentation, witnesses, and enough legal firepower to level a small city," he said calmly. "Grant thrives when people fear him. Don't give him that power." She wanted to believe him. She almost did. But then her phone buzzed again. Her heartbeat lurched. A new message. This time not from the unknown coworker. It was a voicemail transcription from Grant. Her hands shook as she read it. "Harper, we need to talk. You're making a mistake. Whatever Sterling promised you, he's using you. Come home before you ruin everything. For both of us." She exhaled shakily. Then another message arrived instantly. "If you don't come back, I'll tell the board everything. Don't push me." Harper's blood ran cold. "What is he talking about?" she whispered. Rowan's eyes narrowed. "He doesn't have anything real. He's bluffing." Harper wasn't convinced, until her phone buzzed again, this time with a screenshot, a blurry photo, her silhouette entering the SUV the night she left, taken from across the street. Grant's caption beneath it, "They'll think you were having the affair." Harper's stomach twisted. This was war. Rowan took the phone gently from her hand. "Harper," he said, voice steady as stone, "he can only twist the truth if we let him. It's time you stop reacting to his moves." He handed the phone back. "And start making your own." For the first time, Harper didn't feel fear. She felt resolve. Harper barely slept that night. The ocean roared below the cliffs, but instead of soothing her, it echoed the chaos in her chest. Grant's messages kept replaying in her mind. Threats wrapped in fake concern, manipulation disguised as love, desperation coated with venom. By morning, she felt hollow, but ready. Rowan found her on the terrace, arms wrapped around herself against the cool breeze. "He won't stop," Harper said quietly. "He'll drag my name through the mud. He'll twist the whole narrative and paint himself as the victim." Rowan stepped beside her, hands in his pockets, gaze fixed on the rising sun. "He can try, but he's not as powerful as he believes." Harper sighed. "You don't know how he operates. Grant plans everything. He anticipates every angle." Rowan turned his head slightly. "No, Harper, he anticipates you, the version of you he molded, not the version standing here now." Before she could respond, Lydia Chen called from inside the villa. "Rowan, Harper, there's something you both need to see." Harper exchanged a glance with Rowan before following Lydia into the living room. On the large screen mounted to the wall was a series of confidential emails. Winslow Properties internal communication. Harper's stomach dropped. "Where did these come from?" she asked. Lydia folded her arms. "Your co-worker wasn't the only one who noticed what Grant was doing. The internal systems flagged several discrepancies in authorship. Someone leaked these to us anonymously this morning." Harper stepped closer to the screen. The emails were damning. Grant forwarding her designs to himself at midnight. Grant instructing his assistant to delete incoming messages meant for Harper. Grant telling Tessa, "Once I secure the CEO seat, I'll phase her out completely." Her pulse hammered. But it was the last email, time-stamped just 2 days before she walked out, that made her breath freeze. "Tessa, make sure the board sees the new urban proposal. Tell them it's mine. We can't let Harper think she has a future here." Harper's fingers curled into fists. Lydia glanced at her. "You have grounds for a legal case, a strong one." Rowan nodded. "And leverage. This could collapse Grant's credibility in the acquisition talks." Harper's voice came out steady. "So he wasn't just using me, he was eliminating me." Rowan met her eyes, soft but resolute. "People like Grant destroy others to feel powerful, but now the truth is in your hands." Harper inhaled sharply. For the first time, she realized she wasn't just reacting to Grant anymore. She had the power to end him. Harper stood in front of the massive glass windows of the Sterling Strategy Suite, staring at the dark blue horizon where the ocean met the sky. The executives had cleared out, leaving only silence and the faint hum of the building's ventilation. Her hands were still trembling, not from fear, but from the raw adrenaline of seeing Grant's lies exposed so starkly. Rowan entered quietly, a folder tucked under his arm. He set it on the table near her. "You handled yourself well," he said. Harper let out a shaky breath. "I didn't say anything." "You didn't have to," Rowan replied. "Your work spoke." She opened the folder. Inside was a formal offer, Sterling Innovations letterhead embossed across the top. Her eyes scanned the page. Director of Urban Creative Development. Her pulse skipped. This must be a mistake," Harper whispered. "I've never held a director position. I barely had a title at Winslow." "That's because someone kept you small," Rowan said. "We won't." Harper swallowed hard. "Rowan, this is too much." "No," he corrected gently. "This is overdue." She stared at the offer again. A generous salary, creative autonomy, authority over the development of the same project Grant had stolen from her, and a clause, one she hadn't expected, that gave her credit as the original conceptual architect. Her throat tightened. "This feels unreal," she admitted softly. Rowan stepped closer, not touching her, but grounding the moment. "Harper, you have two choices. You can keep running from the version of yourself he created, or you can step into who you were always meant to be." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A video message from her unknown coworker. Harper tapped it open. The footage showed Grant at the office, yelling, slamming his fist on the table, pacing like a trapped animal. Tessa stood nearby, arms crossed, smirking. Grant barked, "Find her! I need that design package before the board meeting. Without it, I look incompetent." Tessa's voice floated in, dripping with disdain. "You are incompetent, Grant. You just finally ran out of women to hide behind." Harper's breath hitched. Grant spun toward Tessa, livid. "You think Rowan Sterling will ever take you seriously? You're a placeholder, nothing more." The recording cut off. Harper lowered the phone, stunned, realizing Tessa wasn't his partner anymore. She was positioning herself for survival. Rowan watched her face shift. "So," he said quietly, "what will you choose?" Harper looked at the offer letter again. For the first time in her life, the future wasn't something happening to her. It was something she could claim. Harper accepted Rowan's offer letter with both hands, feeling the weight of it settle into her like a second heartbeat. For the first time in years, her future wasn't a fog of uncertainty. It was sharp, defined, reachable. But victory never arrives alone. It always brings shadows with it. That afternoon, as Harper walked through the open-air courtyard of Sterling Innovations, her phone buzzed again. She expected another panicked message from Grant, another warning from her coworker. Instead, it was Tessa. Her breath stopped. The text read, "We need to talk. I think I underestimated you." A cold ripple ran down Harper's spine. Tessa had no reason to contact her unless she wanted something. Before Harper could process the message, another bubble appeared. "Meet me tomorrow. I have information Grant never wanted you to see." Rowan approached just as Harper's fingers tightened around her phone. "Something wrong?" he asked. She handed him the screen. His expression hardened instantly. "Absolutely not. She's manipulating you. She's as complicit as he is." Harper nodded. But something didn't sit right. Tessa's arrogance was legendary, her ambition even more so. She wasn't the type to reach out unless the ground under her feet was collapsing. "She wants leverage," Harper said. "She wants survival," Rowan corrected, "and she'll burn anyone to get it." He had a point. Still, curiosity gnawed at her. "What if she has something real?" Harper asked quietly. "Something that could expose him further?" Rowan studied her for a long moment. "You're playing with someone who has nothing left to lose. That makes her dangerous." Dangerous, she understood. Grant was dangerous. But Tessa was unpredictable, and unpredictability was its own kind of threat. Harper finally said, "I'm not meeting her alone." "You're not meeting her at all," Rowan replied firmly. But the argument ended abruptly when Lydia rushed into the courtyard, breathless and pale. "You both need to see this, now." They followed her into the conference room, where a live stream was projected on the screen. The board of Winslow Properties was in session. Grant sat at the head of the table, face strained, voice raised. "And I assure you," he barked, "the rumors are false. Harper Lane is unstable, easily manipulated. Sterling is exploiting her." Harper felt her stomach twist. Grant slammed a document on the table. "I have evidence she committed professional misconduct." Rowan inhaled sharply. "He wouldn't." "Oh, he would," Harper whispered. Another board member leaned forward. "If you have proof, present it." Grant smirked. And in that moment, Harper knew. Tomorrow's meeting with Tessa might not be a risk. It might be her only chance to strike back. Harper barely slept. Not because she feared Grant. She was past fearing him. But because every new revelation felt like another landmine waiting to go off. By sunrise, she'd made her decision. She would meet Tessa. But she wouldn't walk into that meeting alone, blind or vulnerable, the way Grant had conditioned her to be. Harper Lane was no longer the woman who whispered her opinions and shrank to keep the peace. She was gaining power, and power demanded risk. Rowan wasn't thrilled. "You're giving her an opening," he warned as they drove toward downtown Malibu. "Tessa Monroe isn't a whistleblower. She's an opportunist." "I know," Harper said, steadying her breath, "but opportunists don't turn unless they're cornered." Something scared her. "And you want to know what?" Rowan finished. Harper nodded. He exhaled sharply and tapped his fingers against the leather seat. "Fine, but I'm staying close, and the moment anything feels off, we walk away." She agreed. Still, when they arrived at the oceanfront cafe Tessa had chosen, Harper felt that familiar tremor of unease beneath her ribs. Tessa was already inside, sleek blonde hair, flawless makeup, an expensive coat draped over her shoulders. The same woman who once looked at Harper like she was disposable now stood when Harper approached. "Wow," Tessa said softly. "California looks good on you." Harper didn't respond. Rowan stood a few steps behind her, silent but unmistakably present. Tessa exhaled. "Look, I'm not here to apologize. Grant and we were stupid. But you need to know something." She slid a small flash drive across the table. Harper stared at it. "What is this?" "Insurance," Tessa said. "Emails, proof, the stuff Grant didn't want anyone to see. His real plan." Harper hesitated. "Why give this to me?" Tessa swallowed, her first sign of vulnerability. "Because he turned on me. Because he's spiraling. And because if he goes down, he's taking everyone with him." Rowan stepped forward. "What kind of emails?" Tessa's eyes flicked toward him before landing back on Harper. "Emails about you, about the board, about falsifying authorship, and about burying every opportunity you ever had." Harper's chest tightened. Then Tessa dropped the real bomb. "And something worse, something he was planning to reveal at the next board session. About your family." Harper froze. "My family?" she whispered. "I don't have any family left." Tessa looked her straight in the eye. "That's what you believe. But Harper, Grant found something he was saving for the perfect moment." A chill ran through Harper's entire body, and for the first time since leaving Manhattan, she felt fear again. Harper's pulse hammered so loudly she couldn't hear the ocean anymore. The cafe, the soft jazz playing in the background, the clinking of cups. Everything blurred as Tessa's words carved through the air. "My family?" Harper repeated, voice barely audible. "Grant knew something about my family?" Tessa nodded, glancing nervously toward the window. "He found documents, records, something about your past he thought he could use to discredit you." Harper shook her head slowly. "That's impossible. I grew up in foster care. There is no past. There's nothing to find." Tessa leaned forward. "Harper, that's what he wanted you to believe." Rowan stepped closer, posture tightening. "Enough hints. Say it plainly." Tessa swallowed. "Your mother didn't die the way you were told, and she wasn't who you think she was." Harper felt the world tilt. "My mother?" Tessa nodded. "Grant hired someone to dig into your background before he married you. He wanted to know if you had any claims to property, inheritance, anything that could tie him to legal issues." Harper's chest constricted. "Why would he hide this from me?" Tessa's voice lowered. Because he knew the truth about your family would change everything, including your value. Rowan frowned. Value in what sense? Tessa hesitated, then dropped the final blow. Your mother was connected to Sterling Innovations. Silence detonated around them. Harper stared, stunned. Rowan's jaw clenched, eyes narrowing with an intensity she'd never seen from him. My company? He asked, voice low. Tessa nodded. She worked on one of the early design teams. Brilliant, from what the records say. But something happened, something sealed, and her file disappeared from public archives. Grant found references to her in a restricted database. Harper felt her breath falter. Why? Why would he keep that from me? Because it meant you had legitimacy, Tessa said. Potential claims. Intellectual lineage. Things he couldn't control, and things that could overshadow him. Harper pressed a hand against the table to steady herself. Memories flickered. Her mother's laugh, the smell of paint, sketches taped to their old apartment wall. She never questioned it. She never asked. Tessa slid the flash drive closer. Everything he found is on here. Rowan placed a firm hand on Harper's back. Supportive, grounding. This isn't just leverage, he murmured. This changes the entire landscape. Harper looked between Rowan and Tessa. So Grant didn't just steal my work, she whispered. He tried to erase where I came from. Outside, waves crashed violently against the shore, and Harper felt something inside her shift again. Not fear this time. Identity, power, truth, the kind Grant could never bury again. Harper stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of Rowan's Malibu office, the flash drive resting in her palm like a live wire. Her mother, Sterling Innovations, a past that wasn't an absence, but a truth Grant had stolen from her. And today, the board of Winslow Properties was holding an emergency session, the one where Grant planned to destroy her credibility. Not anymore. Are you sure you want to do this? Rowan asked, standing beside her. Harper didn't hesitate. Yes, because this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about claiming the identity she'd been denied. An hour later, they entered the Manhattan Conference Center via the private executive elevator. Harper felt her heartbeat thundering as the doors opened to the top floor. Dozens of investors, board members, and advisors filled the room. Conversations hushed the moment Rowan Sterling walked in. Grant froze mid-sentence, his face drained of color. Harper, he breathed, stunned. What? How? Harper stepped past him without a glance, her linen suit catching the light like quiet armor. She took a seat beside Rowan at the front of the room. The chairman cleared his throat nervously. Mr. Sterling, Miss Lane, may we ask why you're here? Rowan spoke first. To correct the narrative. Grant stiffened. There is no narrative. There is only the truth. Harper stole company materials. Harper stood. Every eye in the room snapped to her. I didn't steal anything, she said, voice calm but resonating. I created them. She placed the flash drive on the table. And here is the proof that Grant Winslow has been stealing my work for years. Gas rippled across the room. The chairman opened the files on the big screen, emails, timestamps, forwarded documents, all linking Harper's original designs to Grant's presentations. Board members whispered urgently. Tessa's recorded voice played next, describing how Grant planned to eliminate Harper from the company entirely. Grant lunged forward. This is manipulation, fabrication. She's lying. Rowan stepped between them, not touching Grant, just existing like a wall of steel. No, Rowan said coldly. You are. Grant's face twisted. She was nothing when I met her. She had no family, no career. Harper's voice cut through him like a blade. My mother worked for Sterling Innovations. The room froze, Rowan nodded. And her legacy lives in Harper's work. Something you tried and failed to bury. Grant stumbled back, speechless. The chairman cleared his throat. Mr. Winslow, given these revelations, we will be voting on your immediate removal. Grant stared at Harper, panic, rage, disbelief colliding in his eyes. You can't do this to me. Harper held his gaze for the last time. I'm not doing anything to you, she said softly. You did it to yourself. The vote was unanimous. Grant's world collapsed, and Harper, finally, took back her name. When the boardroom emptied, Grant escorted out by security, pale and shaking. Harper remained standing in the center of the polished floor, staring at the skyline of Manhattan. For years, she had walked these streets believing she was small, replaceable, invisible. Now the city seemed to bow at her feet. Rowan approached quietly, stopping beside her. "How do you feel?" Harper inhaled slowly. For the first time, the air didn't feel heavy. "Like I finally woke up," she whispered. They left the building together. Outside, reporters swarmed the entrance. But Rowan's security team formed a seamless barrier. Cameras flashed as whispers spread. "That's her, the real architect. She exposed him. She took down Grant Winslow." Harper didn't shrink from the attention. She walked through it. Later that evening, Rowan brought her to a rooftop restaurant overlooking Bryant Park. Soft jazz drifted through the air, fairy lights twinkling above them like new constellations. Harper's linen suit had been replaced by a simple, elegant dress the house manager had chosen. Nothing flashy, just clean lines that made her feel like the woman she'd been trying to become for years. As they sat down, Rowan studied her with a gentleness that disarmed her. "You should be proud," he said. Harper shook her head lightly. "Pride isn't what I feel. It's peace. I didn't know I could ever feel that." They talked for a long time about architecture, innovation, her mother, the future. Not once did Rowan mention Grant, because Grant was no longer relevant. When dessert arrived, Rowan rested his hands on the table, leaning slightly forward. "Harper, I want to ask you something." Her heartbeat skipped. "Now that the truth is yours again," he said softly, "what do you want next? Not what someone else expects, not what someone else allows. What do you want for your own life?" Harper held his gaze. In the reflection of his eyes, she didn't see the broken woman who ran into the rain. She saw the woman who rebuilt herself from the ashes. "I want a life where I'm not afraid," she said. "A life where my work matters. Where I matter." Rowan's expression warmed, quiet, sincere. "Then I hope," he said, voice low, "you'll let me be part of that life. Not to lead it, just to walk beside you." Harper felt something unfold in her chest. Soft, certain, new. She reached for his hand. "You already are." Below them, the city glowed. Above them, the future opened. Harper Lane had lost everything, only to find the life she was always meant to live. So, that's how the story closes. And if you're still here with us until this moment, my friend, it means something in this journey touched your heart in a way only real stories can. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength. Maybe it whispered a truth you needed. Or maybe, like the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Harper's story isn't just drama. It's a reminder that we heal the moment we stop handing our power to those who don't deserve it. Life will test us, betray us, bend us, but it will also invite us to rise, to reclaim ourselves, and to choose who we become next. If this story spoke to you, stay with us. Like the video so more people can find their courage. Share it with someone who might need this exact reminder tonight. And subscribe to our channel because we'll keep telling stories that hold your hand through the hard moments and lift your spirit through the hopeful ones. You deserve healing. You deserve clarity. And just like Harper, you deserve a future that finally feels like your own. This story is a work of fiction created solely for entertainment and inspirational purposes. All characters, events, locations, and situations are imaginative and not based on real individuals or real-life companies. Any resemblance to actual people or events is purely coincidental. The narrative was crafted to explore themes of resilience, self-worth, and emotional growth, and should not be interpreted as factual reporting or real-world allegations. Our intention is to provide meaningful storytelling that encourages reflection and motivation, not to present real claims or depict actual corporate practices. Viewers should enjoy the content as a dramatic, fictional scenario designed to evoke emotion and convey personal empowerment. Thank you for supporting creative storytelling and for understanding the artistic nature of this video.